Welcome to What the Decks, where, over the course of a lunch hour, we take the idea for a deck build from Lunchbox to Deckbox. I'm your host, Skylar, and this is week 2. Uh, Today we're going to be tackling a Headsman's Curse plus Breakneck Slaughter build. Pretty excited. I've spent very little time in Breakneck Slaughter. There was a bit of Headsman's Curse going around in my meta locally, and I've always found them extremely fascinating. So I'm going to take the opportunity to explore a bit today. But first, we're going to start with a field test results from Velmorn's Veiled Ambitions. So that was the first episode. That was last week's episode. So I'm going to kick off each episode with just a brief kind of how it went. And so this week, I wanted to let you know that I played 4 games with Velmorn's Veiled Ambitions since we last saw each other. I played against Gnarl Spirit Pack. That was a partial game. Against Skittershank's Claw Pack, full game. Domaton Storm Coven. And one against Wormspat Passive Prophecy deck. That was actually pretty brutal. So, I won 2 out of the 4, and one of those games was the partial game. I think the deck worked rather well. There were definitely swaps that I would make, and there always are when you iterate on a deck. So, I mentioned in the first episode that a regret of mine could very easily have been Shaishin Infusion. Not bringing it along, and you know what? Absolutely a regret. So that would be something I would slot straight back in. It's just with 3 health, anytime you're taking 2, you're vulnerable. It's like immeasurable if you can just bump them back up to full. That's huge. And then with something like Rise Again in play, that helps you quite a bit there as well. I also only scored Victorious Veils in one of my games. And that led me to think that it might have been a trap goal card. I'm not 100% convinced. It's definitely something I want to test with more. It's one of those things where because of the stretch goal aspect of it, you can always take it for 1. You can really go for that 3. And if you get momentum, you can score it for that 1. In fact, the reason I only scored it in 1 game was because I held on to it in another game. There were 2 where like it was just out the window. I wasn't going to get it. I was losing fighters too quickly. But 1 game I was too greedy and went for the full 3, and I could have scored it for the 1. So overall, I think it's fair to include to continue to iterate with. And then I think I'm going to swap out the Crown's Curse. I didn't really like it. And I'd rather bring in Lord of Bones, which I have the physical cards right here. Is after this fighter's deadly command reaction, push each friendly grave card up to 1 hex towards the enemy fighter closest to this fighter being the leader, restricted to them. I just think the amount of push that this would offer and the fact that you can get this triggered multiple times around is probably way too good to pass up. So I think I dropped Crown's Curse, focusing less on it being there for Victorious Veils, and use something like Lord of Bones just for more utility. Ultimately, I think that Victorious Veils struggles with the fact that I don't have 3 pieces to support its my 3rd end phase goals with it, right? I've only got Rise Again, and I've only got the Crown's Curse. If I had a 3rd piece, I think this would feel like a much more comfortable card. And then the one other thing that I thought I might regret was leaving Morbid Majesty at home. I would have only scored it in 1 game, and I think this card would frustrate me more often than not. So I think it stays. The pleasant surprise was Feast of Violence. I thought that this card might be too slow. I thought it would be reliable, but also I thought it might demand too much of my actions, forcing my hand a little more than I would have liked. And that wasn't the case. It scored in every game. I think it was a good include. So, all right, there's our flight test. I'd love to hear how, or field test. I'd love to hear how it went for you. Did you try this deck out? Did you find the same things? Did you make different adjustments yourself? Tell me in the comments down below. I'd love to hear more about it. I'm considering pinning to the previous video the changes I would make after my field test. Let me know if that's something that you'd like to hear too. Maybe after I do this next week video, I go back to the previous one and say field test results. Here's my first swaps. So, all right, let's dive in. So we're gonna clear the deck editor of Velmorn's Veiled Ambitions. One other note on that deck I want to call out is Oliver last week, after I typed in Velmorn's Veiled Ambitions, sent something along the lines of, you should have called it Sons of Veilmorn. Perfect name. Keep that energy. Those are the type of recommendations I want. Name's locked in this case, but I love to see those types of suggestions in chat, and those could end up being the names that the decks get. So, all right, let's load in Headsman's Curse. Oop, boop, boo. You can see I was flirting with the idea of doing Sirenized Razors for today. Actually, I got 2 requests for warbands for today, and they were both Wormspat plus Force of Frost. So I wanted to call that out and just say, I hear you. I'm adding it to the queue. I want to keep the first few episodes as things that are like really readily available to people, or at least reasonably available to people. So that's why we're going to stick with Headsman's Curse today. Refresh data. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, so let's go grab what we need. We need Headsman's Curse cards, and we need Breakneck Slaughter cards. We're going to start with what big ticket items we can grab in our objectives. All right, so kicking off with the Triumph of Death here. There are so this is a duel, 1 or fewer surviving enemy fighters, and there are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters. Interesting. I don't have enough experience behind this warband to feel confident in this. That it's asking 2 sides of the equation, and a lot of which is going to be out of your control. So not only are you going to fight variable amounts of enemies depending on whether you're up against like the new gits that are coming out, the rehash there. So 9 fighters down to 3. That really kind of adjusts how hard that first variable is going to be, and then even keeping 2 of your surviving friendly fighters alive. You do have resurrection. Oh yeah, 2 resurrection warbands in a row, 2 death in a row. I'll try to spice up the Grand Alliances in the future. That's actually one of the reasons I was thinking about doing Sirenized, was just to switch it over to Order. But if you'd like to see Sirenized as one of the next ones, let me know. I'm super open to steering the ship towards what people want to see from builds here. So, in short, we're going to pass on the Triumph of Death. A lot that could be out of your control there. 3 points, like it's offering you a lot if you can pull it off. But we're going to see what else we can do here. Fastest around, score this in an end phase. If each surviving friendly fighter is in enemy territory, and there are no enemy fighters in your territory. All right, so either of them were any end phase, but this really feels like a 3rd end phase. Whereas here, you could really pull this off at any stage of the game. Now, there's 2 like philosophies for cards like this in a best of 3. There's the philosophy of like, it's too easily played around. Don't bring it into a best of 3 because at any point in time, enemy fighters can just pop over into your territory and make sure this doesn't score. That's usually where I fall. The other side of that coin is once they know. So first off, you can pull a fast one on them in round 1. And if they know it's there, they're going to constantly that puts pressure on them to have to meet the block, to get somebody into your territory. So it's another variable they have to keep in mind at all times until they see you get rid of this card. So you could, so depending on where you fall on that, it's not a terrible take. But in this case, I'm going to pass. So all rise. All right. 2 or more friendly fighters each have 1 or more raise counters. Okay. I don't think that's too hard of an ask in this deck, but we'll see. I'm definitely already considering it. And one or more enemy fighters are out of action, and one or more friendly fighters each have one or more raise counters. Oh, sweet. So just get one raise counter in play on your side and have one of them dead on their side. I think this is going to be pretty flexible, pretty reliable. We're going to go with all rise. I like that quite a bit. Tools of Death. Score this in an end phase if 3 or more surviving friendly fighters each have 1 or more upgrades. 3 or more. Ooh. So can you keep 3 alive enough in the right moments with 1 or more upgrades each? I think this is great. So get 3 seed glory, get upgrades out. You do have to spread them around, but it is giving you 2 glory. I'm a fan. Let's toss that in. Eager for the fight. Let's take a moment real quick to talk about Breakneck Slaughter's plot card for those unfamiliar. So there's a plot card button in Underworld's DB for those who didn't know. So that's always nice. And this one is showing their particular plot card, the Headsman's Curse one, which is our condemned counters, how we acquire them. We need 3 to inspire. So if we were to add Eager for the Fight here real quick, I think it would allow us to see both. So, and you're allowed both plot cards when you're building with a warband that brings their own. So you're only really allowed 1 universal plot card. So this is totally fine. And impetus here is something that we're going to have to keep in mind throughout this entire build is +1 move to each fighter that has 1 or more momentum counters. So we can make our fighters a little faster just by leaning into momentum. But then we're going to have to process the rest of this. And the enemy is going to be able to either push or stagger anybody that has momentum, depending on where they're positioned. So essentially they go to process a push, and if they can't or can't process it fully, that's when the stagger comes in play. So, and there's a lot of clarity around this plot card available in in the FAQ. If anybody needed to track that down, had any questions for themselves regarding that. We do have 1 errata to keep in mind when it comes to the sharpener of the blade. However, I can tell you right now, it's just for like clarity. So there was just, arguments one way or the other if the wetted counters would go away if the sharpener died. There were those that believed they didn't because it was already set into motion, and there were those that believed that they did because the source is gone when the sharpener had died. So this just comes out, cleans it up really nice, and says absolutely once the wetted counters are down, they're present unless like that fighter were to die. So specifically the one that received the wetted counters. So and we know exactly when the blade bound reaction is. So this is all really good information. This is one of the things that I really appreciate about MCRAT, the guy behind Underworld's DB, is that he makes sure that this is all front and center information for you. All right, so we were scrolling down to Eager for the Fight here. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more charge tokens and or is within 2 hexes of 1 or more enemy fighters. So the and or here makes this an extremely flexible card. So we're definitely going to keep it included for the time being. Each surviving friendly fighter is in these positions. Now the charge tokens, we might lose those when we die, but if we bring somebody back with blade bound, hopefully we'll be able to bring them back within 2 hexes of another enemy fighter. I could see this being on the cutting block just because I might not be the most comfortable with managing like resurrection positions. We'll see. But overall, usually a really strong card. And Rapid Strike here. Score this in an end phase if the number of enemy fighters out of action is equal to or greater than the round number. So round 1, 1's dead. Round 2, 2's dead. Round 3, 3's dead. We're going aggro here. Breakneck Slaughter is like inherently leaning into aggro, leaning into damage and accuracy, as well as making sure you can get to your target. So I'm hoping that we can get Rapid Strike off here. At its worst, you're up against a 3-fighter elite warband, and it's the 3rd end phase. and you're like, oh, was I able to kill literally the entire warband? That's the worst situation to be in with this card. But overall, I think it's a reasonable ask. Actually, I think that card's rather balanced. I really like it. Being able to score for 2 in the first off of a single fighter, though, is nuts. All right, so running rings. 2 or more friendly fighters are adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters in enemy territory, and 2 or more of those friendly fighters each have 1 or more move and or charge tokens. All right, so this one can be satisfied with the same enemy or 2 different enemies. So again, a little bit of flexibility here. If an enemy ever charges and doesn't make it out of their territory, let me see, 2 or more friendly fighters are adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters in enemy territory. So the in enemy territory is attached to enemy fighters, I believe. Yes, so you can actually be hugging them if you're in no one's territory, because it's the enemy fighter that needs to be the one in enemy territory. So if somebody charges into us, keeps all of a sudden they're immobile, we can capitalize on that position. So I think running rings is fair to consider. Basket of Bonces. So we're into the 1 glories here. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more enemy fighters are out of action. Don't like that. Not for 1 glory. Not when you could end up against either a 3-fighter warband that's really hard to take that far down, or up against Resurrection, in which case keeping things off the board is incredibly difficult. So and I think Resurrection's pretty hot right now in general. The new mass deck that's out loves Resurrection warbands, for example, and the re-release of the Sepulchral Guard, really good re-release. They're pretty great. I definitely recommend checking them out. So yeah, we're gonna leave Basket of Bonces, especially for only 1 glory, but even for 2, I think I'd leave it at home. No, for 2 it's Chill of the Grave then, and you know what? Then it becomes tempting. Then it becomes worth it. For 1, no. Okay. Judge lest ye be judged. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more move tokens and or charge tokens. Okay, this one I'm for sure gonna leave out, because I don't ever want to be on that 4th activation, be super excited to get an attack down with the wielder of the blade and kill somebody, and then not be able to bring them back for fear of them having a move or a charge token and preventing me from scoring that. So if I can afford to leave this one out, I'm going to leave this one out. I tend to find move and or charge tokens on everyone to be all right. Savoring the Inevitable. Score this in an end phase if a friendly fighter is adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters, and 1 or more of those enemy fighters each have 1 or more wound and or condemned counters. Okay, so it does not care where we are, just that we're adjacent to an enemy fighter and they are currently wounded or condemned. Not the worst. We'll bring it in. I know they have good push tech. I know they want to get into supported positions. I don't mind setting up for that round to round. So we'll consider that. Need for Speed. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more move and or charge tokens. So another example of Judge lest ye be judged. Yep. So we're going to leave that. And Too Slow. Score this in an end phase if your warband has more move and charge tokens combined than 1 or more other warbands each have move and charge tokens combined. All right, do we need it? Well, we're at 6 end phases. So if we just stick to this and they're all 2s, then we can avoid leaning into these 1s. I think for now, this is what we're going to entertain. Let's move on to surges. All right. Ooh, 2 glory surge alert. Always sit up a little and see if that's something that's attainable. All right, Eager Assistant. Score this immediately after the second or subsequent successful supported attack action made by friendly fighters in the same phase. Second or subsequent successful supported attack action. Okay, so not only do you need successes in both cases. In both cases, they need to be supported. We're going to put this in just because it's 2 glory, and we're going to think about it a lot as we build out the rest of our deck. However, I think that that's it's a fair reward for the ask, but I don't think it's going to be as reliable of a scenario as I want to put into this deck. All right, let's see. Bound in Servitude. All right, score this immediately after a friendly Chain Rasp's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action, or a friendly fighter's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action and 1 or more friendly Chain Rasps supported. Oh, that's awesome. I believe everybody is a Chain Rasp except for the leader. Is that true? Yes. Ooh, and Sharpener is a minion, if that ever comes up as we're working. Okay, so I like this quite a bit. So one of the things that we're going to be doing to try to get more condemned counters is supported positions. So the ways we get them is if you kill somebody who has a condemned counter, you receive it. In fact, I think if they're taken out of action by any means, yeah. So you don't even have to be the this doesn't have to be a kill from an attack action. And then if the attack was supported or if they were a large fighter. So to get all 3 in one swing, you want to have given them a condemned counter that you're trying to pull off of them, attack them successfully with a supported attack action when you take them down, and they were a large fighter. That'll get you all 3 all at once, and you never need more than 3. 3 gets you the Inspire. So we're going to be working towards this anyways, to get ourselves inspired. So let's bring that in. All right, gather a crowd. I should probably not say all right in between each transition. That'll drive me nuts, and I'm sure other people. Okay. Gather a crowd. Score this immediately after an activation step if 3 or more friendly fighters are within 2 hexes of the same enemy fighter. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. That's a pretty attainable positioning requirement. 3 or more are within 2. Within 2 gives it a pretty wide berth, and if anybody charges at your warband, they're essentially they're inviting you to score this. So at least it's going to make the considerations. Heads will roll. Score this immediately after you gain your 3rd or subsequent condemned counter. So your warband has inspired. I think this is probably a little slow if you're looking for seed glory to get the ball rolling, or the heads rolling. Rather, you're going to be waiting on that to occur. So let's pass on that one for now. Off with their head. Score this immediately after a friendly leader's attack action takes an enemy fighter out of action. Our leader is the main threat. Absolutely. So not only is he large, he's on 2 dodge right out of the gate. So he's got the best chance at dodging a blow as well. And he's dealing 3 damage out the rip, assuming I don't wet counter him and bump that up to 4, which is totally available and viable. So let's stop it, Oliver. Oliver is picking on me for the all right in chat. One of the feedbacks I got from the last video was that when you're listening to it after it was live, it's harder to tell if I'm reacting to chat. So I'm going to try to call out that specifically chat said this, or I reacted to chat in this way, to try to make it a little more easier to follow that in the future. All right. Yeah, so I think this is great. We're going to be striving to get the kills with our leader being the one doing so, and we get this bonus glory if we manage to kill their leader. Let's go for it. All right, I feel more comfortable including this as like a 2 glory surge than this, and the fact that it's also 1 or 2, it has that flexibility, that stretch goal is also really great. All right, quick to judge. Score this immediately after an activation step if there is a surviving friendly leader, man I hope so, and 2 or more enemy fighters each have a condemned counter. All right, so we can give out condemned counters with the scripter, Anytime he attacks, he doesn't even need to succeed. He will give them out at range 3. Yep. So that's one way to get one going. I know that we're going to have cards to get another going. If he didn't have to charge to accomplish that, he can, give one to somebody within reach, then charge for another. Yeah, I like quick to judge. Let's toss that in. Beat to the punch. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's successful attack action, if that was the first successful attack action made in this phase. No, we tend to be like a bide your time style warband, and even with the scripter, we don't really feel the need for him to hit. We just need that condemn counter to go down at a minimum. So if we can, we're going to pass on beat to the punch. And crashing assault. Score this immediately after an activation step in which a friendly fighter with 3 or more momentum counters made 1 or more successful attack actions. All right, Alex, I hope you're watching. We're going to talk about this card. Do not... Okay, I mean, I strongly recommend not running this card, because very often you have 1 shot at this, maybe 2 at best. But so you've had... cards show up that are going to grant you the momentum. You're going to spend it. What if you miss that attack? Well, you've just spent all that momentum. And was that the best use of those gambits? Was to try to fuel this failed now surge in your hand? There's probably more reason to break out how you're spending those than to put all of those eggs into this one basket and hope for this card to score. And then you're arguably not getting another shot at it. There's just not going to be enough gambits that are going to give you this much momentum for a second try. And if there is, then that's probably the rest of the fuel in the momentum tank. Do you need it for other things? So I recommend strongly not running Crashing Assault. And this is a heated back and forth between me and my friend Alex. All right. Gale Force. All right. Score this immediately after your warband's 3rd or subsequent attack action in the same phase. This I'm down with, right? This doesn't have to be successful. This is going to happen over the course of the phase. I like it a lot. Very reliable. Not fast enough. A friendly fighter's attack action takes the target out of action, and the enemy fighter had 1 or more move and or charge counters. I like this. Let's toss this in. So it's a kill surge, but it's not asking for much. It's just asking that we pick our targets and that they have a move and or a charge counter or token. This is also like a stipulation that is really hard to play around. Most of the time, if I'm across the table from you and I know you have not fast enough, it's going to put a little pressure on my decision making, but altogether not too much, because I'm still going to need to make these moves, make these charges to make my game plan work. I might just hesitate how far up those are if possible, especially during like a round 1. So I think that's pretty great. Let's toss that in. Out of Control is hilarious. If we bring any momentum, then this is worth considering, because even just hearing as the opponent that I'm up against Breakneck Slaughter, I assume they have Out of Control, and I second guess every time I try to stagger somebody with momentum when I'm processing that impetus sequence. So we're going to toss it in as a consideration. And then Wild Impetus. Score this immediately after the impetus ability is resolved for a 3rd or subsequent time in the same phase. I like this more than Crashing Assault, but I still don't love it. So the reason I don't love it is because when you're processing impetus, it processes the pushes for every single person. So you're only ever processing impetus once per turn. And therefore you need either your opponent to have brought Breakneck Slaughter as well, and then it's hilarious, you're both just going to score it, or you need to make sure that you stretch this across 3 activations and that you have enough momentum support to get that going. So not something I dislike. Let's see, how are we doing on surges? But we're already at 8 surges. So with that hesitation, we're going to leave it. All right. So I'm going to notice every time. I I just rewatched the video from last week, and I thought pacing wise, we did really well. I know I want to try to push it closer to the hour. I'm gonna be pretty happy as long as I never push over an hour and a half, and I can keep it closer to under an hour, or sorry, under an hour and a half, like somewhere between 60 to 75 minutes is probably where I'm going to be really, really happy. And anyways, when I watched that video, I didn't hear that transitional tick, so I don't know if that's new today or, or what. But all right, on to ploys. I can't stop myself. Condemned, step forward. It's distracting. No, it's distracting me. Condemned, step forward. Choose two fighters that are adjacent to each other, one or more of which is an enemy fighter. Place each fighter in the hex that was occupied by the other fighter when you chose them. Give each chosen enemy fighter one condemned counter. So, what I like about this right away is it is what was that card called before? Confusion. There's a universal called Confusion that you could do with any two fighters. There was no restriction that one of them had to be an enemy fighter. This can be your fella and one of theirs. This can be both theirs. And the fact that you're getting condemned counters on their targets, if they ever have two people next to each other, you could just use this to instantly score your quick to judge. Yeah. It also helps. This probably helps more with denial than your game plan. It's going to help you get onto like feature tokens if you think that they need to be there, if you think they're holding them for their own purposes. And you can run up, attack them, whether you succeed or fail. You can then play this card to get into their position and really mess with what they're working towards. So overall, I really like that one. And next is Damning Scream. Choose an enemy fighter within 2 hexes of a friendly scripter of the sentence, stagger the chosen fighter, and give the chosen fighter 1 condemned counter. Ooh, I like this quite a bit. So, was Salvage out at this time? I think it was. So, like, right away when this card came out, Salvage was in play. And so it gains, like, credence with me. It gains credibility as a pick, because if the scripter ever goes down, or even is just down temporarily, like maybe I'm planning on resurrecting him or hoping to resurrect him, I can still cycle this card if I no longer really need this condemned counter. But I'm also like getting the stagger, and we want our attacks to hit, so that's a great accuracy piece there. All right, on to the kill. Ben pointed out I'm thinking about it now, and I am. Drawn to the kill. Choose a friendly fighter. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex. After this push, that fighter must be adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters. Yeah, I think this is great. Pushes are great, and we're looking for supported positions for both scoring purposes as well as our Inspire. Helping Hands. In the first attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation, the attacker is considered to be supported by 1 additional friendly fighter. So this is an accuracy piece, but it can also get us a support out of nowhere, one that we didn't have before. That's going to go in based on our needs right now. So all of a sudden, we've got some really good support tech to actually consider the 2-point Eager Assistant here. Right, we have a lot of cards that are pushing towards this goal already, and that could lead to us keeping this, at least considering it or testing it. It could be a first iteration card. Hold them still. Reaction. Play this after a friendly fighter's move action if they are adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters. And choose another friendly fighter. The chosen fighter makes 1 move action. After that move action, the chosen fighter must be adjacent to 1 or more of those enemy fighters. Yeah, that's going in. So not only is this going to help us with positions, but this is going to continue to help towards those supports. So choose a friendly fighter. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex towards the... Here, let me get that picture. There we go. Towards the nearest enemy fighter with 1 or more wound and or condemned counters. So I don't normally say that we have enough things pushing us around. I usually load them all in and then trim them. But I think we might actually be push flush right now. Pretty much everything I've been adding has helped with either push or support. So just because I am who I am, let's add it. But I think that's going to be first cut. Roaming Witness, choose a friendly chain rasp, remove the chosen fighter from the battlefield, and place the chosen fighter on an edge hex. Then give the chosen fighter 1 charge token. If that friendly fighter is adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters, give each of those enemy fighters 1 condemned counter. I like this quite a bit. So the best thing in my mind that this can do from a trick standpoint is when your opponent is looking at you and you're not charged out yet, they can think that they have another activation before you're capable of charging out. And then instantly during the power, you play Roaming Witness, you are charged out now. That threat that they thought they were safe from for an activation, another swing from your leader per se, is all of a sudden on the table. And not only does this help in that way, but it's helping reposition, it's helping get condemned counters down. I like Roaming Witness quite a bit. It's some of my favorite type of trick play. Speaking of favorite type of trick play, Scapegoat. This card is hilarious. Guilty, preferable. Innocent, impossible. Within reach, perfect. So, choose an enemy fighter. The chosen fighter has a wounds characteristic of 5, unless it would be higher. So this is making them a large fighter. This effect persists until the end of the round. Give the chosen fighter 1 stagger token, making them easier to hit, and 1 condemned counter, which means all of a sudden killing this fighter gives us 2 condemned counters. The one that we're getting that they've just been handed from Scapegoat, 1 for them being a large fighter, and if we can get a support in there, that's all 3. You can build your Inspire target. I think Scapegoat's hilarious. If nothing else, I've always wanted to try it out. I never have. I don't know if I've ever played Headsman's Curse. I think I've only ever played against it and just had a lot of fun thinking about it. This Warband's theme is fantastic. You have the sword Terminus that they are all, like spiritually enslaved to. And there always must be 4. Like the idea of the resurrect is that the blade demands another soul serves. So even if that soul is vanquished, gone, another soul is harvested and put into the role of, the scriptor, the sharpener, the executioner even. It's all around the sword. It's so cool. All right. So back down. Unseemly Haste. +2 move to friendly fighters in the next activation. You cannot reroll attack dice in friendly fighters' attack rolls in the next activation. Okay. Well, we might find some stronger move tech in Breakneck Slaughter here, but the move tech we find in Breakneck Slaughter will probably require us to be impetused away from our target afterwards. How slow are we? So all of our fighters start and continue to have 4 movement. Ooh, Wielder actually bumps it to 5. I don't think I remembered that. Yeah, so 6 is quite a bit of distance. You pretty much rarely need more than 6. So I think being able to flex up to 6 at a moment's notice, but not be able to reroll, I think that's fair. And welcome, Jacob. You do get to listen live this week. Awesome. Happy to have you. And you must serve. Place a friendly chain rasp that is out of action on a starting hex in your territory. Give that fighter 1 raise counter. Then if there are 4 surviving friendly fighters, give that fighter wound counters until that fighter is vulnerable. This is my favorite resurrection card in the game. I love the balance struck here. So you're using it only to resurrect the non-leader. So already a restriction there with the word chain rasp. And the later in the game you go, like the likely this is to benefit you to the fullness of it, right? If you're down 2 fighters, then you're going to get a 3rd fighter back at full strength. But if you're doing really well for yourself, really at any stage of the game, and you've only lost the 1 fighter and you're going to use this to bring them back, well, let's make them vulnerable, right? You're clearly doing rather well if you're only down that one fighter. So I think You Must Serve is just really clever design as well, and we're gonna bring it. So I think we hit yes to all 10 of theirs. Okay, so that's not gonna stay. We're not gonna literally just take all 10 of their gambits. I know I was already thinking about cutting just in case. We're gonna start with cutting that, and Unseemly Haste might get replaced by something from Breakneck. But this is gonna be hard. I really just genuinely love their gambits that are available to them. So let's see what can vie for a slot. So choose a friendly fighter, give the chosen fighter 1 momentum counter, +2 move to that fighter in the next activation step. So this is really +3 because they're getting another +1 from the momentum counter. And what do we have in the surges that is pulling for momentum? So nothing in the end phases. So we have Out of Control, which is not so good if we don't like push momentum onto the enemy fighter. So if I don't bring that sort of tech, then I'm 100% relying on my opponent to score this card for me by staggering a friendly fighter. So right now I don't have great reason to bring momentum to support Out of Control. Not fast enough, not requiring it. Gale Force not requiring it. Yeah, so we can actually forgo momentum. We can pretty much dodge impetus with this build if we want, and we might just do that. Let's keep building though. So for now, I'm gonna leave this at home. We know that there's a +3 available there, but right now we have a +2, and I think I'm happy with it. Can't Stop. Play this after a fighter's activation step. Push that fighter a number of hexes in one direction equal to that fighter's momentum counters, then remove that fighter's momentum counters. So this is pretty cool. If we do lean into momentum, or we're doing so, because I think it's probably pretty clear that we're not at this point, this would allow us to control the momentum. So you play Breakneck Pace or have another source that's giving you these momentum counters, then instead of giving that over to your opponent to process impetus, you take the reins on it, process it yourself, essentially, with Can't Stop. And I mean, that can really make that move go, like you can charge into somebody, and then all of a sudden you can say, not only was this all planned out to be a charge, a range 1 attack, but now I'm sending my person onto a feature token or into the position to support my next attack, right? Like the positional play here is more offering you more than just taking over impetus and denying it from your opponent. But right now we don't have enough momentum to support it. I don't think we're going to. Devastating Charge. Choose a friendly fighter. Give the chosen fighter 2 momentum counters, +1 damage to that fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions in the next activation step. Now this is worth considering. We're going to get +1 move and +1 damage to this attack. We're going to put it in. I don't know if we have room for it, but we're entertaining it. All right, Impossible Leap. Choose a friendly fighter. Give the chosen fighter 1 momentum counter. That fighter has the flying trait in the next activation step. We already have the flying trait, so this is +1, and then, or this is pretty much just +1 movement, right? So we're going to leave that out. Let's go for Reckless Charge. Choose a friendly fighter. Give the chosen fighter 2 momentum counters, +1 dice to that fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions in the next activation step. So +1 move, +1 dice. I might even like this more than the +1 damage in this particular build because we're already starting out pretty damage heavy. We want to make sure that our heavy hitting attacks are landing. So I think I'm more excited about something like Reckless Charge than Devastating Charge even. And let's see, Roll with Punches. Hold on one second, resizing chat so I can see it. All right. Here we go. Stay frosty, chat, because we're in the Death Gorge. Roll with Punches. In the next activation, when a friendly fighter is the target of an attack action, give that fighter 1 momentum counter, and then -1 damage to a minimum of 1 from that attack action until it has been resolved. Give that fighter 1 moment. So when a friendly, so you don't have to choose who's going to benefit from this. This is pretty good damage mitigation. You have to be fairly sure that you are dissuading an attack or reducing an attack, right? So anytime you put out something like this, your opponent's going to think one of two things. Do I still go for the attack, even though it's -1 damage, knowing that? Or like, does this dissuade me from the attack for an activation altogether? And then I don't, so I forgo an activation where I was attacking, right? So it's actually pretty strong with what pressure it puts on your opponent. I like it quite a bit. And if they decide that they've been dissuaded, then the momentum counter doesn't even happen. So let's think about that one. Screech to a halt. This is another way to manage the momentum counters that you're playing with. Play this after an activation step. Choose a friendly fighter with 1 or more momentum counters. Remove the chosen fighter's momentum counters. So you just stay in put. Whereas with can't stop. And I was reading this right? Like, places. Yeah. So here you get to fully control where your momentum would have brought you, whereas here, you get to stop it altogether, prevent it. So right now, I don't think we've leaned in enough to bring in these combo cards. These cards are great when you go super hard into momentum. See ya. Play this after a fighter's activation. Choose a fighter adjacent to that fighter. Remove the activated fighter's momentum counters and give the chosen fighter 1 momentum counter. Once again, another way to manipulate them, and a hilarious way to do so. This is one way to help you score out of control. This is the type of support you need to be able to own when you score that card. So if we were bringing out of control, we'd bring Sia for sure. But at this point in time, I don't think we're keeping out of control. Slick Ice. After a fighter's charge super action, give that fighter 1 momentum counter. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another domain gambit is played. So I have had this card played against me to such great effect that we're definitely going to consider it. What this card ends up doing most of the time is if they commit to those charges, you're in full control of their positioning, and if they're going to end up staggered, like, they're completely at your mercy during like a full round if they didn't bring a domain with them to counter this. So with that being said, if you're going into a tournament and you suspect you might encounter Breakneck Slaughter, and it's a very popular aggro deck, it's quite good, so there's a high chance you're going to come up across this. See if you have any domains in the pairing that you're bringing. This is a good reason to consider bringing a domain, because this can mess so heavily with a full round, where all of a sudden you're taking moves that you didn't want to, or foregoing charges, or taking the charges and getting super punished for them. So we're going to consider this. I think this is a pretty mean card. It's probably the meanest card in this deck. There was another thing that we'd noticed about it. Give that fighter 1 momentum counter. Oh, just timing wise, it's really hard to offload the momentum counter with other cards in here. So in fact, I think with Slick Ice, it might be impossible to offload this momentum counter. I'd have to circle back to verify that statement. So don't hold me too strongly to that, because we're moving on to upgrades. All right. So for upgrades, we have Cackling Nightmare. After an activation step in which this fighter made 1 or more range 3 plus attack actions, this fighter makes a range 3 plus attack action. This is the scripter. So this is a pretty interesting utility card for the scripter. We're going to take it. We're going to consider it. The reason it's so interesting is because it shares the same window with Condemn. So as long as you are still playing the Condemned counter game, as long as you still need these, you're probably going to take this reaction. But once you no longer need this, then it's really cool to be able to switch the game plan to now he's attacking twice. I like this card. So I've always had archers in a lot of the warbands I've played, and a lot of archers have this like react to my range 3 attack and do it again, and I really like them. they can really help with like driving people into positions too. Like maybe you're not even making the second attack or even either of the attacks to really get that one damage down, because it's only one damage a lot of the time, unless combined with things like Glory Seeker and whatnot. But being able to like double control positions if you can land those attacks is really nice. And Chilling Grasp. Enemy fighters adjacent to this fighter cannot make move actions. Hold still. So Chain Rasp. So as long as we're not giving this to our leader, we're okay. I also like that this is salvage fuel, by the way. We've added very little that has been salvage dependent. So if the scripter goes down and we just want card draw, that's also available to us there. Chain Rasps, you're pretty much always gonna, if you're salvaging something that's Chain Rasp specific, hopefully you're at the very end of the game and it's just your leader left alive. Otherwise things have gone really badly. So this card's really fun, but it is hard to orchestrate. We did bring a lot of push and a lot of move. Let's try it out. This is a card I have yet to see across the table from me, I don't think. But if you can hug that position and force them to not charge, to not move, that can be pretty brutal. It's definitely limited in applications because you're essentially forcing that you've trapped them. Like if they're going to do anything with that fighter now, they're going to attack you. But at least you get to control where that attack is going. Deaf to Mercy. This fighter's attack actions have Ensnare. Let's go take a look at what type of modifiers we have normally. So, out the gate, nobody has Cleave and Ensnare. It's directly attached to a profile. The bearer brings with him Cleave. So, range 1 and range 2 attack actions made by a fighter supported by the bearer have Cleave. So he's just like holding the block up against the head of the fighter that you're attacking and is like, come on, right here, aim, and assisting you with that Cleave. So that's pretty cool. We have a source of Cleave inherently, and then from then on, no source of Ensnare and no additional source of Cleave. So Deaf to Mercy, it's not the biggest bump. Like it's gonna be, you're gonna be in games where you're against dodge heavy warbands and you're super happy to have it, and you're gonna be in games where this does absolutely nothing for you. So we're gonna pass on it for now. I actually find today like Cleave to be the stronger consideration. If you can bring like an upgrade that's gonna offer you one of those, I think I'd lean Cleave right now more than Ensnare. But this undeniably has benefits. Just I don't think it's gonna make the cut. +1 wounds absolutely is going to make the cut on Enduring Executor. Ethereal Immunity. Rolls of double support are successes in this fighter's defense rolls. So not only do we have a couple fighters that start on 2 dice, so that's awesome right out of the gate for those individuals. Oops. But the other 2 get up to 2 dodge. So I think this card is phenomenal because if you somehow also have a single support, this does not prevent that from assisting you. This only adds to the equation. I like it quite a bit. The only time it really blocks is if you're sitting on cover. It's like, no, I'm already doing that for you. So at least you don't have to worry about flipping things over to cover. Guided Blows. You can re-roll 1 attack dice in this fighter's attack rolls. Very often, the attacks that we're going to be making are going to matter like monumentally. I think one of the reasons we don't see Headsman's Curse as much as I think like it gets talked about a lot. People are like, oh, Headsman's Curse is really good, but I think one of the reasons we don't see them as much as you would think, given how much they're talked highly of, is because they're often considered like an all eggs in one basket like game plan, right? Like if you spend any amount of time putting wedded counters on somebody, then when you eventually go in for that attack, you want it to hit. And so they can feel rather swingy in performance when that doesn't hit, right? It's like, oh, shoot, I spent a lot of resources like working towards that, and I really needed to pay off for my surges. I needed it to pay off for my inspire, stuff like that. So, I mean, re-rolling attacks is always good, but especially so here. It's one of the reasons why we're very likely going to keep that +1 dice, +1 move card, even though it gives you momentum, because any accuracy help we can get is going to go even further in this warband than it would in others. Heavy duty. +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions for chain rasps. We're going to put that in. Extra damage is never bad. It can't really help the scripter unless we have the scripter or weapon, but that's okay. And if we don't think we need it, and this is one of the few warbands in the game where I would say, like, they might not, we can always leave it out. So they're just already bringing great damage output, and with the wetted counters, they can do this ahead of time without ever having glory to put down a +1 damage card. But that's not to say that it doesn't help in all the other scenarios. Job satisfaction. After an activation step in which this fighter made 1 or more attack actions, give this fighter 1 guard token. This does not need to be successful, and if you're on 2 dodge, holy crap, does guard tokens go far. Yeah, love this, bringing this 100%. Lurking Crony. When a friendly fighter adjacent to this fighter makes an attack action, this fighter supports that attack or that fighter. Okay, so kind of staggers your positional requirements for supports. You don't necessarily need to be hugging them. If they were to like out defend you, then you don't have to worry. Well, I was gonna say you don't have to worry about having like 2 fighters up against them. Usually like your attacker and your supporter, but having 2 up against them also helps your defense when they try to attack you back. This is not bad. You just have to position well for the benefits. I think we're going to explore that. We're going to consider it. Like anytime that you can influence like how you can support people, I think you take a look at it, especially with an aggro game plan. Swift Judgment. And this is their last one. I think we brought a heavy amount of these again. Yeah. Apparently I'm a huge fan of their power deck. Swift Judgment, +1 move. Use this after this fighter's move action. If this fighter moved through 1 or more hexes that each contain an enemy fighter, choose one of those enemy fighters, give the chosen fighter 1 condemned counter, and break this card. We're going to put this in because we're going to take a look at how many sources of condemned we have available to us to support our end phases and our surges. But if we have enough before this, we'll probably leave this. Battering Ram. +1 move. After the deal damage step of this fighter's attack action that targeted an adjacent enemy fighter, give the target this fighter's momentum counter. So another way to offload and control scoring out of control. I'd like Battering Ram, but we're not bringing enough to justify it in the momentum camp. +2, after this fighter's move action, give this fighter 2 momentum counters. So this is a card that can help ensure that you have more mileage when trying to score the card I told you never to take, the search. I forget its name. Where you successfully scored or succeeded in an attack while having 3 momentum in tow. At least this gives you multiple shots at it, but we didn't take that card. We have +2 move on a stick in a Gambit right now. We're going to leave this behind. We're also pretty fast already. Hurricane Dart. This would be so cool to be able to bring, but we didn't lean in. So Hurricane Dart is just really, really strong. So 1+ the number of this fighter's momentum counters, being able to, strike for 2 at range 4 is pretty cool. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to take that. We'll probably take Inertial Lance, though. Range 2, 2 hammers, 2 damage. After the deal damage step of this attack action, give the target one of this fighter's momentum counters. So, although I don't think that's really going to come up. I mean, we'll have the possibility for it with one of our Gambits, but I don't think we're bringing it because it's a ranged attack is what we're bringing it for there. So And that's if it makes the cut. Living Hurricane. This fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions have stagger. After this fighter's move action, give this fighter 1 momentum counter. No, that's okay. If we're doing range 1 or range 2, most of the time we really want it to be the killing blow. And although when it's not, stagger might be nice. I think we're gonna pass on that. It's not a bad card. It's just not quite giving me enough. If it was, first off, if it was range unrestricted, it would be like incredibly good. But we would be taking it right now because we would be giving it to the scripter 9 times out of 10, I think. Moving Mark. While this fighter has 1 or more move and or charge count tokens, this fighter's defense character is 2, and this fighter cannot be on guard. 2 block. After this fighter's move action, give this fighter 1 momentum counter. Okay, so we can take ourselves up to 2 block. We can even do that before we can get inspired. And once we do get inspired, 2 block's better than 2 dodge anyways. The cost is we have to be really mindful when we make our attack or our movements after that, because then we'll get momentum counters. But that could be really cool. Yeah, like if we're trying to keep the scripter alive early or the bearer of the block alive early, one of those two. I mean, it does help the sharpener out much, or it does offer them, 3 out of 6 facings on each die instead of 2 out of 6. But I think we'll pass on. We're gonna bring it as something to consider for early on, for the early benefits for those middle 2 fighters I was just talking about. Okay. Standing starts. +1 move while this fighter has no move or charge tokens. When you activate this fighter, give this fighter 1 momentum counter. Oh, cool. So this is a +2 move. Okay. And then they immediately get the move or charge token after they've made their move. So +2 move with a momentum counter. How is this different fundamentally from this one here? After this fighter's, give this fighter 2 momentum counters. Okay. So the difference here is you're getting 2 momentum counters, kind of like furthering the amount of momentum that's being handed out. Whereas here, you're still getting the +2 move essentially, but only the 1 momentum counter. Okay, well, I'm not sold. I just don't think we need this sort of move help in this deck. Translocating Step. If this fighter is in an edge hex and not within 1 hex of any enemy fighters, this fighter can use the following action. Action, give this fighter 2 momentum counters, then place this fighter in another edge hex within 3 hexes of 1 or more enemy fighters. So this isn't a card I'm a huge fan of. Yes, it does help you get into enemy territory. So but like first you have to set up, you have to be in an edge hex. So hopefully you started there, or at least because you're going to see your hand. And so maybe you start somebody there knowing that you have Translocating Step in your hand and you're hoping to get that glory, give this to them and get them like all the way across the map. It can help, offset something like a longboard situation where you weren't able to get more than 3 fighters kind of like in a good position to cross that line for you. You can put this 4th one in the back and just translocate, step them later. But it costing an action, giving 2 momentum counters makes it a bit rough because they're gonna have more control over your landing spot than you are. So overall, I think translocating is like fun and has applications similar or to the way I just described, like having to get a fighter that you had to leave behind across the line. But overall, I'm not a big fan. So we're gonna leave that one. Tumbler. You cannot give this card to a large fighter, so you can't give this to your leader. or the bearer if we end up giving him that +1 wound. So be careful with who you give the +1 wounds to, because I think we have a couple large stipulators in here. This fighter's defense characteristic is 2 dodge, and this fighter cannot be on guard. This fighter cannot be staggered. We're already pretty much going to be at 2 dodge, hopefully. 2 really important fighters are going to start that way. We're bringing an upgrade that's going to offer us guard tech. I kind of want the ability to go on guard at some point in time if I feel that's the best way to spend my activation. Not being able to be staggered is pretty great, but we're going to pass on Tumbler. And Unstoppable Warrior, the final card. While this fighter has 3 or more momentum counters, this fighter had... Nope. We don't have enough for 3 or more momentum counters, but this fighter has innate, your choice of sword or hammer, fury or smash. After this fighter's successful attack action, break this card. So that's a fairly good card if you can plan on having that much momentum, but we definitely don't here. So we have a much easier task of cutting, I think, than we did last time around. We were looking at like 16, 15, and like 13 last time across the board here. So we only need to cut 2 objectives, 2 of them being surges. We'll just glance over, make sure that our plan looks good and cohesive, and then cut 3 gambits and 1 upgrade. So I think this deck build came together rather easily, especially with being able to kind of forgo a lot of the momentum-based decisions. So I think momentum is fun to lean into and is not like a terrible scoring path, but with them, I don't think we can afford to be getting pushed around too much, because we want the supported positions, and we also want to make sure that we can really get to the target that we need to and get that attack off. But mainly we want to continue to have the supported positions for both condemned counters as well as some of what we're asking our fighters to do here, our game plan to do. So out of control, let's get rid of that right away. It's an easy cut. So then the question is, do we have enough to support Eager Assistant? And if we look over here, so let's see, how many things do we have that expressly gets us support? So this does not. So this is essentially a confusion. Choose an enemy fighter within 2. Right, okay. Drawn to the kill. Choose a friendly fighter. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex. After this push, that fighter must be adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I just realized that the card that we cut earlier is another version of this. It's just one of them is command counter-based, or condemned counter-based. Look at me sneaking Velmorn verbiage into here. So this can really help us with the support game plan. This can really help us with the support game plan. Hold them still. Roaming Witness can technically help with the support game plan. So we have quite a bit, but not only does it have to be a support game plan, it also has to be 2 successfully supported attacks. So let's see, so Hold Them Still and Helping Hands are the best pieces to that puzzle. So we've got 2 things that really help support that. Drawn to the Kill being a push just kind of inherently offers that as an option. So then over here, Lurking Crony, offering the kind of that extended support. If we keep Eager Assistant, we absolutely have to keep Lurking Crony. So we would have a good solid 3 pieces to support taking a crack at Eager Assistant. So I do believe you have the fuel to try for this. This is a pretty lofty goal, and it is going to be likely not something that you're reliably doing in round 1, because you're asking for a lot of these pieces to kind of come into hand at the same time too. So I think we're at 19 glory, which actually is a flex up to 20 with off with their head. I think this is the cut. So we would, like, if we cut a 1-pointer, we'd cut down to 18, flexing to 19. If we cut a 2-pointer, we're at 17, flexing to 18. I think that's extremely comfortable. And I think the other things that we're being asked to do here can just come together more reliably and more quickly in earlier rounds. Yeah, because we can use a lot of that positioning, that same positioning tech to make sure, like, gather a crowd is going to score for you. Yep, that's going to be the cut. So Eager Assistant is gone. And that means we have 18 as a glory ceiling when you account for off with their head. But that's a stretch goal, right? Most of the time, like, if you were to score out your deck, you're looking at 17 from it here. And then this should be fairly easy. So we only have to get rid of 1 upgrade. So I'm going to hold off on that decision. And I want to keep Slick Ice just because it's, well, you know what? It also messes with your game plan quite a bit. So I've seen this to great effect in warbands that are comfortable taking move actions, getting onto their own tokens, getting themselves placed. It's like, hey, I don't need to spend this round attacking. I just need to get into placements, positionally, all that stuff. You go ahead. You try to charge me a few times. You could always use it for only a few activations too. Being a domain, you can know that you'll have it in hand, and you can think to yourself, like, oh, okay, so, like, for the first 2 or 3 activations, we won't put this out. But then even after my third, they'll still have 2 left, maybe, assuming you went first. You can then toss this out and, impact their final 2 activations. It's still got play, but I think it's on the cutting block. Roll with the punches. I think still has play, also on the cutting block. Reckless Charge, we're absolutely keeping. We're going to get rid of Devastating Charge. I don't think we need that +1 damage source. Because just for clarity, so right out of the gate, if you park anybody next to the Sharpener, you can bump the Wielder up to 4. You can bump Bearer up to 3, because those are the 2 that you can sharpen. Give this fighter or friendly wielder. Oh, wait a minute. Am I wrong? I, for some reason, thought you could. The wielder of the blade, what counter, +1 damage to that fighter's range for each of the. Oh! Give this fighter or friendly adjacent wielder. Oh, he can sharpen his own sword. Oh! For a moment there, I thought you could get Bearer up to 3. I was just misremembering. So, I mean, still, you have a source of 2 damage right out of the gate, and 3, potentially 4, potentially 5, if you're really gonna, like, sit there and stack scarily. Okay, well, we got rid of a +1 damage, but let's think about if we have room to bring it back in. I still think you don't lean on that as much as you lean on their inherent strengths, and then backing them up with accuracy, but let's take a look. Scapegoat also gets you potentially an additional glory in your game plan, because if you put this down on somebody who's, like, on 1 dodge, I mean, they're so in trouble. And even if you can't get them killed, you can probably get them to where their original health pool was, and so you might not get the full large fighter kill, but then when this reduces down to their original health value after this effect goes away, then, like, they'll still die and you'll still get the glory. So I think Scapegoat is worth keeping in here for how much it can do for you. The drawbacks are fairly minimal. And yeah, I think ultimately we're gonna cut Slick Ice. you're also going to be in their face quite a bit once you kind of like get into game plan. So they might not need to charge as much. As hot as I was on Slick Ice earlier in the ep, let's see. I think what's more important to us? Roll with the punches to deny potentially dying, or like something like this that messes with their game plan more so than helps your own. Like it has applications for both, don't get me wrong. A confusion is fairly a flexible ability just in general. I just think it's funny that I'm considering taking 9 of their ploys and only reckless charge from Breakneck Slaughter. But I think that's the route I'm going to go. Yeah, we're not getting rid of Yuma Serve for sure. I think Scapegoat would be the one on the chopping block, like to keep roll with the punches in. And maybe next week I'll report back and say, hey, Scapegoat, more cute than good. Should have brought roll with the punches. So for now, let's cut roll with punches and lock in this iteration. And then over in the upgrades, only one to cut. So let's see. Yes, I was going to check to see if I felt that we had enough condemned tech for our objectives. So ultimately, what are we trying to do here? So this is a chain rasp made a successful kill or supported a successful kill. We have a lot of ways to help with support, and if they happen to get a kill on their own, awesome. So that's good. Gather a crowd. This is just making sure that we're within position. We've got a lot of position tech. Off with their head. That key kill where your leader actually swings and succeeds on his game plan. That's just really fun. He's going to be the one doing the damage anyways. Quick to judge. So we need 2 or more fighters that each have a condemned counter. I think that's the highest ask of us from a condemned counter standpoint. Here it's raise counters. Let's circle back here real quick. These are just attacks in succession and not fast enough. Actually, Gale Force is interesting in the sense that, like, if you spend an activation wedding, and you have Gale Force, you're going to have to make sure that your next 3 have attacks. That's where Scripter's range is going to help you out quite a bit. Scripter. As well, to make sure that you can get that far away fighter. Excuse me again, to help with Gale Force there. Not fast enough. Kill Surge, that had a move or a charge token. Savoring the inevitable. Friendly fighter is adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters, and 1 or more of them have a condemned counter. So we have another thing asking for a condemned counter, but only 1. A wound would do. Tools of Death was the 3 upgrades across 3 fighters. This is positioning based with Eager for the Fight. So we have a lot of things helping us out with our positioning. Rapid Strike, just kill count, and Running Rings also positional. Okay, yeah, so we need at least enough to get 2 condemned counters as quickly as possible for a surge. We've got 2, and Scapegoat helps with that too. 3, 4. Yeah, we have enough tech to support it. So we have 4 in Gambits. So we probably, and something with the Scripter. I think we could actually drop Swift Judgment. I don't think we need it. I think we have enough tools to help us make sure that we get across that finish line. So there we go. We have fully built Headsman's Curse and Breakneck Slaughter. Anybody have any deck name ideas? I'll give you a few seconds while I try to think of something on my side as well. I wonder if you'd lean into something about Slaughter not being spelt without laughter, but probably not. It's the final task. The final task of today is to make sure that this has a good deck name. So, oh, you know what? there's got to be something there with like breakneck and like executing, right? You want to remove their heads. So breakneck head removal services, something like that. Headsman's Curse 500. I don't know the reference. I'm sorry. Oh, Headsman's Course 500. I think, okay, let's do, yeah, save. Headsman's breakneck removal services. All right, I can't think of a better one, so we're gonna go with that. I like your idea better. Thanks, Oliver. Headsman's breakneck removal services. All right. Well, now that we have the name, I would love to hear back from anybody that has any ideas for which warbands and or pairings they'd like to see next. You can toss me a warband that you absolutely want to see, a universal deck you really want to see, or straight up a pairing, right? I've had 2 people reach out looking for me to do Wormspat, Force of Frost. So that'll be down the line for sure. I haven't decided yet how cruel that is, because I think Wormspat have like 3 viable cards to their name. So we'll see what that build looks like. But I have a feeling it's going to lean heavily on on Force of Frost themselves. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one of the drawbacks of the Lunchbox over Deckbox game plan is the idea is that I eat before, and I was so busy this morning that I haven't eaten yet. So gotta make sure that I'm able to meet those bodily needs if I'm gonna keep up the weekly stream, which I'm absolutely gonna do. So just did not realize how famished I was gonna feel at the end of today's ep. I was like, no, we're going in, we're doing it. Lunch be damned. All right. So with that, this has been taking an idea from Lunchbox to Deckbox, and I've been your host, Skylar, and this has been What the Decks. If you would like to reach out to me, you can reach me in the YouTube comments here. You can find me on Discord, specifically at the Mortal Realms Discord. We also have the mortalrealms.com, where you can find a link to our Discord. It's going to be the best way to get a hold of me, is either Discord or here in the comment section. All right, flipped around that order a little bit. Outro complete. Thanks for watching.